I'll be teaching you some really good stuff about making your wealth scumbag proof. Now, all through this weekend you're going to be learning about how to make lots of money and buy property and do shares, new internet, but I'm actually here to teach you how to be broke. I got you thinking, didn't it? In other words, on paper. In other words, so if at the tax office, the government, everyone wanted to sue you, will see you as broke. Who likes that idea? Do that kind of stuff all the time. Okay. My disclaimer, which I've got to kind of give. Okay, let's give a bit of background about me. I became a lawyer because when I was younger, one of the things they often say when you're a teenager you kind of find your passion, and I was a musician and did acting, but I was always fascinated with law cases and getting into law. One of the things when I was a kid, I was bullied in primary school quite a bit, and I remember when I was 13 in high school getting bullied one day and feeling humiliated in front of the class. And I remember that day I thought, you know what? I was so upset by it, I thought, I'm going to learn something that's going to make it so no one can ever kind of exploit me again and take power of me again. So I decided I'm going to become a lawyer because that looked pretty cool. And I put that in the back of my mind. And one of the things I actually do now, as well as asset protection and tax, is I was quite famous in Queensland last year. I took on the Queensland Police on a speeding fine, argued they had no jurisdiction and won the case. Who likes that? I've won a few fines. I've taken, my rule is if I get a fine, I just fight it. It's just fun, you know. I've won quite a few cases, lost a few. Been involved in helping clients with tax audits and all kinds of stuff over the years. And it's funny, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is taking on issues about regulators and all that kind of stuff. I think it's great and everything else. So one of the things you'll find in building wealth is you're dealing with millions and billions of laws. Who's already experienced the insanity of our legal system? Like there's parking tickets if you do here, there's this law, you want to get in your bike and go for a ride, you've got to put a helmet on. If you walk on the streets, you can't do this. They've now got these insane laws in Victoria where if you're a bikie, in Queensland, if you're a bikie now, you can't even get bail if you've ever been a bikie just for a simple offence now. I mean, it's just nuts. So one of the things that if you're going to be wealthy and make money, you've got to get a bit of a grasp around law. Also an accountant. I worked for the tax office for 10 years. As Eric said, I worked as a tax auditor. I was, I think, one of the youngest auditors to ever get a death threat, which is pretty cool. Totally serious. They reckon I was very zealous in anything I do. Who here is obsessive, like really full on? Anyone admit to being obsessive? Yeah, I'm completely obsessive. You know, if I do something, I'm just, a bit extremist. And I've got moderate as time's gone on, but yeah, so anything I do is I'm obsessive. I'm full on as an auditor. I took my job seriously, and I think within 6 months I'd had a harassment complaint and a death threat, and yeah, well, it was fun anyway. It's good to put in your resume. Financial planner as well. So if you're wondering if I'm a complete nerd, the answer is yes. Anyone does 3 degrees in accounting, law, financial planning doesn't really have much life. But I do keep myself amused through music. I play piano, I sing, I've done opera. I also do part-time psychic for a bit of fun. Serious. Anyone here into that kind of stuff? Yeah, it's pretty cool actually. We have a joke in our company that you come and do a consult, you get a reading as well. Unique experience. Yep. ATO. Worked about 25 years. Really who's into law of attraction, all this mindset stuff. It's one of the reasons why Jamie and I get on really well. By the way, that stuff works with everything, not just with your wealth building and everything else. Even in dealing with tax and everything else. Like, I know quite a number of times in my life. I can remember a few years ago, I had a really big tax bill looming when I was lodging my tax return. I thought, there's no way I want to pay this amount of money. I just thought, there's no way. So I took the day off, actually cancelled all my appointments, and I decided by the end of the day, I'm going to be paying no tax. And it'll be all legal above board. I don't care what it takes. I got out my books. By the end of the day, I not only was paying no tax, I had a refund. Who now thinks I'm sexy? Yeah. I don't think any guys' hands went up, which is good. Okay, here's my family, my kids. There's my oldest son, William, James and Edward, my twins, and Joe, my youngest. All boys, all footballers. And it's my ex-wife, actually, but we're still very good friends and do our kids together and all that. So I always like to acknowledge it. Okay, who thinks we pay far, far too much tax in Australia? Okay, guess how much? Anyone know how much on average you pay? 69%, you're right. The average Australian, when you add up every tax, GST, income tax, capital gains, 69%. Who thinks that's insane? It's nuts. I mean, I remember when I was 19, actually, I was actually dating this girl, and she actually asked me, what do you want to do with your life? And I just said, well, get people out of paying tax. And I missed out on the girl, but I got the other thing, so that was good. And the other one is fear of losing assets. So just like what you'll just to think for a minute, do a little bit of it, psychic mystic stuff. Just imagine and visualise, and just imagine that you go home from this weekend all excited. You can close your eyes or keep them open, and you're at home, you open your mail and you find a notice telling you that you've been sued by somebody or government agency, and they want from you $1 million. Let's be honest, who here would freak out and be highly stressed just by seeing that? Most hands went off. The rest of them, you've either got nerves of steel or you're probably not telling the truth or you can't be bothered putting your hand up. But anyway, I think most of us would agree would have some level of stress, right? And believe me, I've been dealing with people who've been getting sued for years in asset protection, and it's absolutely traumatic. I mean, I've seen the highs and lows in my own life. I've made lots of money. One stage I went broke and absolutely didn't lost a whole lot. I'm a bit of a risk taker at times. Anyone else like that likes to step out? Yeah, I'm a little bit of got that tendency, and I pretty much wiped myself out some years ago, and that wasn't fun because that was when my kids were still young. And I can assure you, when you go through that, no matter how strong your mindset is, you go through the fears and you kind of the shame and the failure, and as you start to, but when you bring yourself back out of it again, you learn how to put things in place. And one of the things I can assure you is this: who here knows you're going to get cancer in the next week? No one, right? So if you got cancer, it would be a shock, wouldn't it? Yet who here has got health insurance? A lot of you. Who here expects to crash your car as you leave tonight? No one. Is it possible that you might crash your car when you go out tonight? Do you have car insurance? So by having car insurance, are you being a fatalist or are you being smart and practical? Smart and practical. Okay, so who here in this room has got all of your assets insured, so you know if someone sued you, you're fine? 100% fine. 1, 2, not many. And yet more hands up for car insurance than for having all your assets insured. Who thinks that's a little bit out of balance there? Why? Because we don't really know, do we? We haven't been told this before. But the truth is, the average Australian gets sued 3 times in their lifetime. That's statistics. And if you're making money and you're in business or investing, do you think you're on the higher side of the ledger? I can assure you, when I first heard those statistics 10 years ago, I thought there's no way that can be right. Now, having the last 10 years, no doubt it's correct, because a lawsuit doesn't necessarily mean you go to court. But something where someone says, I want money out of you and I'll take legal action out of you, that counts. And the fact is, if you're in business or making money, it's not a question of if you get sued or have a threat of someone wanting it, it's what? Australia's got a real tall poppy syndrome. It's like if you've got something, people are like, you've done something wrong to get it, or they want to pull you down. People don't want you to. And I can assure you, when someone's looking at a lawsuit, a government agency is looking to go after you for some money, or a liquidator with a company is looking to actually get some money out of you, the first thing they look at is what? Your assets. They do. I was talking with a lawyer friend of mine the other day about a client we're trying to protect who's been sued for $800,000. And it was all over a misunderstanding about a deal he had overseas, did nothing wrong, and they pretty much stitched him up, and he ran the risk of being locked up in an overseas country, completely whole and fair, but he'd end up having to, sort that out, and now his whole property's at risk. No fault of his own. So of course we've been looking at how can we shelter him and protect him and make sure he's okay. So it's a real issue, the fear of losing assets, creates stress. And who here has blindly trusted an expert in the past and got no results? Put your hand up. Like an accountant, financial planner, doctor. Anyone doctors? Yeah, let your hands go up there. I remember 2 years ago, I learned about doctors 15 years ago. I got chronic fatigue and got really severely bad nervous exhaustion, and I got worse and worse. My back was in agony. I couldn't sit for more than 5 minutes. I would sit in restaurants and I couldn't stand light. Anyone ever been in that situation? Hopefully none of you. But yeah, I went through all that. I was pretty stressed out, and I went to numerous doctors, and the result was after 2 years seeing doctors and every specialist, I got worse. So my conclusion was, I don't think this actually works. And the result was I then spent 3 years studying health for myself. I went and studied health, completely fixed myself up. Who thinks it's pretty cool? I just worked out and learned about the laws of health and everything. My health now, I went recently for a health checkup, was told that basically the doctor said, for where you're at in life, you're unbelievably healthy. Almost all your organs functioning beautifully. Why? I eat well. I know exactly what my body can eat, what it doesn't like. 2 years ago, in fact, I actually did have I had some problems with my gallbladder. I went to the doctor, the surgeon gave me this, we got to take it out straight away. I said, no, you're not. I said, I'll go and do my own research. I went and did some reading in the medical textbook, came back and said to him, I've done my own research. I said, what you're recommending is not good. I've got my own treatment plan, here it is. And I gave him a written out treatment plan. And my treatment plan involved going on a fast and a cleanse and then doing 2 other steps. And the next step, if that didn't work, I'd go through some other procedure. And I said, you show me any flaw in my plan. He said, no, it's actually really good. So the moral of the story, what I'm telling you that is very simple. When you're dealing with your own wealth and money, you've got to be educated and take your own power. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't rely on anybody else. You use people. Do I use doctors still? Yeah, I do. But very, very carefully selected. I've only got one doctor I trust, and I've got a couple of naturopaths and health people I trust and regularly get checkups with. With my finances and business, I have a mentor. I have a mentor of my finances and business, and again, pick them very carefully. So the thing is, blindly trusting anyone, you've got to have some knowledge. When you go and buy your first property, after what Conrad taught you at the auction, you've got to know what name to buy it in. Otherwise, like one of my clients found out who didn't get advice, they paid $67,000 extra in capital gains tax because they put the wrong name on their contract. Who thinks that's a pretty big punishment for making a mistake? But that's the world of finance. The reality is that's how it works. You don't get this right with your tax planning, it's too late later on. You've got to get it right at the start. So what I'm going to quickly cover in the short time I've got here tonight, I've just actually last weekend did a 3-day event teaching all this, so I'm going to be putting in 3 days of teaching into about 45 minutes. Who am I and why am I here, which I've done, how to protect your assets, some brief principles, how to slash your tax legally, and how to build some wealth through super. Some introduction, because superannuation is one of the great ways where if you're here thinking, gosh, I'd love to buy some property, I'd love to do business, but I don't really have much cash. But you might have some super sitting in there, unused. You could get in there and buy your first property straight away. Who's got not much cash, but who's got some money in super? Yeah, so all of you, quite possibly, could be in that position where you can actually use that to get in the property market. I bought a number of properties in America myself a couple of years ago, and I bought all of them through my super fund. All of them. Simply because the tax advantages, I'll show you shortly the difference between paying 0% tax when you sell them, like you do in super after you hit 60 if you hold them till 60, or paying, say, between 30 and 45%, how much difference it makes to your net wealth shortly. So the solution is to learn the law, understand it, and apply what you've learned and deal with the right advisors. I'm very fussy about my team, and you want to make sure you're working with the best people. One of my favourite quotes about knowledge liberating its power by a great king, the most exciting thing is to know. Okay, so protecting your assets. Here's a few funny ones, but this is what companies are doing now because of the concerns they've got about lawsuits. This is the kind of nutty things you've got. My favourite one, this was based on actually something apparently happened in a case in America. This product is not intended for use of a dental drill on a rotary tool because someone tried to fix something on their teeth using a rotary drill. It's nuts, isn't it? And yet, this costume is not suitable for flying on a Superman costume. It's pretty funny, isn't it? I've already given you statistics about being sued in your lifetime, about 3 times. The other one is people often say to me about insurance and saying, look, Warren, I'm insured, so no issue for me. But like, I've got a property, I've got landlord insurance, I've got a, what else? I've got in my business, so I've got PI insurance. I can assure you, I was with a client just recently who they were covered by PI insurance for some advice they'd given in their business, in a service business. The insurer said they'd cover them, and then about a little while later on, the insurer came back to them and said, we've changed our mind, because what happened was the client about a year and a half ago had sent an email had received an email from the client he'd given advice to, basically saying he wasn't happy about something. Like he said, look, I've discovered that with your advice that this happened. I'm still happy with your advice, but it's going to cost me some money. Is there some way I can get around it? And then the guy just wrote back saying, look, unfortunately, but we can do this. And he goes, okay, I'll get back to you. The insurer tried to claim, but you had a duty to advise us. On the policies, you're required to let the insurer know any risk of a claim being made against them. And basically they said, because you didn't do that, we don't believe we should have to pay you. Now, he's still fighting it as far as I know, and trying to argue with the insurer, who's trying to kind of back down on some of their stuff. And believe me, insurers, there's a lot of reasons, and in practice, how do insurers make their money? They make it by paying you or not paying you? Not paying you. Claims get declined all the time. So yes, have insurance by all means, but you've got to have yourself structured properly. Governments want your money as well. That's another reason. Most bankruptcies today occur from government than anyone else. And the fourth one is everybody else does also. So the fact is, if you've got wealth, you've got to assume you're going to be a target. You're going to be assumed that somebody sees you. But let's say you don't have wealth, or you're seen as not having wealth, and remember, perception is everything, then somebody will leave you alone in a lawsuit. If they see you've got no assets or nothing worth value, I can assure you as a lawyer that once you see there's no assets, you tell your client, well, unless you're going to give me 100 grand and we're going to go on an asset search, forget it. So having that perception, having trust, and the welfare use companies trust in that to save tax and protect assets. So here's a very simple rule for couples. Anyone here building wealth with a partner or significant other? A few people? Who's single here? Lots? Okay, pretty even spread. Okay, so I'll show you strategies for both. For a couple, let's take an example. So you've got Donald and Daisy, okay? Oh, this is a very sad pen. You've got Donald and Daisy, okay? Now, Donald, let's just say, for this example, Donald's a doctor and Daisy basically looks after the kids at home. I know it's very stereotyped, but it's a good example to show the point here. Out of those two, who's more at risk of being sued? Donald? Anyone disagree? No, good. Okay, so who therefore should control the assets of the family, Donald or Daisy? Women, do you like that? Yeah. But in other words, so Daisy controls the assets. Why? Because she's not being... So if Donald gets sued, Donald's the one most likely to get sued. Is any asset that Donald owns in his own name is what? Liable to be what? Taken. Liable to be taken off him. Exactly. Whereas if Daisy controls the assets, in principle, so she either controls the family trust, not Donald, or she has like the family home in her own name. Are you all following this? Very simple rule, isn't it? And yet how many people are in business and their accountants get them to buy their property in joint names or whatever else? People do ask me, well, what about the family court? Well, the family court tend to ignore trusts and that. They just look at all the assets together and then make a determination. So generally, this is about keeping other creditors out. People say, what about if Donald and Daisy are both running a business together? Well, very simply, we can use another strategy called separate structures. So for singles, just using a structure, a company and trust, I'll show you why. Let's just say that you got Daisy who's single, okay, for whatever reason. Sorry, art, I did really badly in art at school. I did badly in art, woodwork, metalwork and cooking. So, okay, so you got Daisy here, and let's say she's single running a business. Now she owns, let's say she runs a business and she has assets in her own name. Are they at risk of being sued? Yes. I'll explain one simple thing to you. If you're running a business of any kind, there's one thing you should always do, no matter what, for asset protection. If you do nothing else and ignore everything I said, have your business in a structure. Do not be a sole trader, because there's every good reason of protection why, and every bad reason why not. I'll show you exactly why. Let's say Daisy runs a mortgage broking business and she's her own business and she's running as a sole trader. And let's say she's got 2 houses, okay? Someone sues her as a mortgage broker, or someone sues her on her property, or the government, or she ends up in a fight with the tax office, and the tax office end up claiming she owes her money but she doesn't. This is all common stuff that happens in business. Daisy can basically go, okay, if it's in her own name, she's in trouble, because the tax office will just see assets in her own name, rub their hands, and they'll go for it. If somebody suing her sees it, they'll go, you little beauty. I'm just right now dealing with an owner of a whole lot of restaurants, and literally his uncle is suing him because his uncle got annoyed with him about something, about an argument in business, and then of course the uncle knew he owned a few properties, bang, he's suing him for $800,000. You know? So, and the problem is, I've said to him, I can't do much now because it's already in place, so anything I do can be undone, whereas if you do it now, you're going to be okay. So you've got these 2 properties over here. Number one, all the properties go, but there's another effect that's actually really bad. Daisy's credit rating is skewed. Now, what does that mean for her wealth strategy for the next 7 years? It's done, because her credit rating is shot. Banks won't give her loans. Those who do will put a 5% surcharge on the interest. There's only a few of them who will do it. She's pretty much disqualified. She can't be, if she goes bankrupt, she can't travel out of Australia without permission. There's all kinds of stuff. Now, if Daisy, on the other hand, ran her business through a company, okay, the company basically, let's say the tax office goes for the debt in the company, apart from a few exceptions on a few things, someone suing her or the tax office, the debt dies with the company, okay? What happens to her? Her houses remain safe, completely safe. And not only that, the credit rating is confined to the company. But she winds the company up. So once she keeps the credit rating, can keep building wealth. It's what I call a get out of jail free card. Who's played Monopoly? So who thinks that's a pretty smart way to go? So if you're single and you're running a business, please, please, please do that. And as Conrad said, if you're buying property, apart from a couple of exceptions to do with negative gearing, and if you're on high income and you haven't got other income, we sometimes have to buy in your own name by necessity. Please, as much as you can, buy it in a structure, okay? So the biggest thing I want you to go to this is buy your properties and run your businesses through a company or trust. Now, which one you use depends on the situation. I can't give a blanket answer there, but the other one is multiple structures. Let me explain that one. And again, this is just keeping it as simple as I can. Let's say you've got Donald and Daisy running a business, okay? So let's say Donald is a doctor, but Daisy also runs a business, say, online, an online business selling, say, shopping stuff, nice stuff. And she also owns 3 properties and does shares, okay? So Donald over here has his own structure to run his business, okay? Should Daisy run her business through the same structure as Donald, yes or no? No. Why? Yeah, well, if someone, let's say Donald gets sued, what happens to Daisy's business? It's gone. So Daisy is the one over here. Now, which structure should they buy their properties in? Say, are those 2 companies or structures? A third structure, spot on. Because otherwise, if you own properties in that structure and get sued, what happens to them? Gone. So you have another one over here to buy properties. Men to say, and by the way, what I'm showing you is exactly what I do in my own affairs, okay? Exactly what I do. So this is what I do for clients. I'm also doing what I'm showing you right now myself. And let's say that you got shares or gold bullion or cash or Bitcoin or something like that, holding that in another trust over here, so that if you get sued as a landlord, you're safe. And I stress, this is exactly what I'm using right now. Who thinks it's clever? So if someone wants to sue me, go for your life, you know. That's how I've been. Now mind you, I'm a very honourable guy when it comes to paying debts, because I believe if someone trusts you, then I want to honour that trust. I was brought up to honour my promise. The biggest thing is what I'm catering for here is that, not talking about legitimate debts or legitimate things you do, but people who claim you owe money when you don't. And the fact is you want to make the choice as to whether you owe someone money, not someone turn up and say, hey, I slipped on a banana peel on your backyard, I'm suing you for $5 million. Because now I'm getting nervous shock and I'm stressed all the time and I have nightmares every time I see banana skin, for example. You know the stories people make up. So that thing is incredibly easy. I started the game as a very trusting, naive, and I've in a stage become incredibly cynical because I couldn't believe how easy it was to do bad things if you really wanted to get away with it. And now I've kind of gone reasonably full circle, and I have what I call a healthy cynicism, where I'm still very trusting, but I know at the end of the day, there's a lot of bad people out there who do bad things. You know what I mean? You kind of find that out as life goes on. And you want to live life without being paranoid about it, but at the same time. Here, an interesting little one for you. In the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, one trait that all of the richest people in the world have in common? They're all paranoid. True. Who finds that one interesting? They reckon Bill Gates very paranoid. They reckon to the point where he had his manager come in one day and say to him, he wanted to bring on 70 new staff, and Bill Gates apparently absolutely went off his marbles, lost his marbles at him and saying, you'll send me broke, I'll lose everything. Apparently Bill Gates absolutely paranoid about anything going wrong. That was what saved Microsoft in the early days, and apparently DOS was out, and then all the other companies moved away from DOS, whereas he didn't. He stayed on it because he said, I'm not convinced fully yet, but the market's ready. Whereas everyone else thought he was stupid and being far too paranoid and conservative. It saved Microsoft and actually made Microsoft dominate the market really quickly. So who is part of the club, paranoid and proud of it now? I have that tendency on some things. So, okay, so multiple structures. Bloodline wills, just quickly on that one. One of the biggest things I find that people don't do in protecting assets having proper wills. Who here has got assets and doesn't have a will? Normally lots. It causes more trouble than anything else, not having a will at all. Here's just one little thing for you to keep in mind. If you're married to somebody and you die without a will, your partner does not get all of your assets. Who's shocked by that? Your partner does not get all of your assets. That's a starter. I had a situation with a client of mine who came to see me years ago when I used to do estate planning probate law, and she said, look, my husband's died, died without a will, but the only asset we own is a really nice house in Mozzie Park, which is a place in Perth, and I want to get it transferred into my name. So I said, well, there's only one problem with that. If you died without a will, you only get, like, in WA, it's different in each state, but 75% of the house. And she said, and they got no other assets. She said, so you're going to have to pay him out, like, what's the value of the house? It was like 400 grand. I said, okay, you're going to have to pay 100 grand. She goes, I'm a pensioner, I don't have 100 grand. Well, can you borrow it? Well, no, they won't lend to a pensioner. You've got to sell your house. Lost their home. Simply because they never got round to doing the will. Who's shocked by that? I could keep you here and show you, for example, by having the wrong kind of will. Let's say that Donald and Daisy owned 4 properties. Well, let's say 3 properties and they died, and Huey, Dewey and Louie got 1 property each, okay? And let's say that they died and left all the properties equally among the kids, which is quite normal in a normal will. So Huey, Dewey and Louie, after their death, say, look, who here would not want to share properties with your siblings? I wouldn't, much as I love them. So Huey, Dewey and Louie say, look, let's just take a property each and be done with it, and they do. Let's trigger the tax event, and they'll be ending up with hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital gains and stamp duty, which a properly constructed bloodline, or what's called 3-gen will, can literally reduce tax from hundreds of thousands of dollars to 0. Who thinks that's pretty sexy? Who thinks I'm being sexy by the minute? Worth a try. Okay, who's learnt something there? Who now thinks it was worth staying to hear me speak? Okay, tax minimisations. Let's have a quick look at that. Okay, just some really bad stuff about tax. I've mentioned about the 69%er. The other one is that, here's a very interesting article, just put up here, Blowing Us Blind, How the Tax Man Gets Away with It. It's an interesting article where it talks about the tax man and the strategies they use and all that kind of stuff to do that. So it talks about like changing laws and just how they'll suddenly change a policy or change a ruling, and just like that, 3 years ago, they changed one ruling on companies and how you distribute taxes. No laws were changed. Tax was changed their policy, and I think that alone reaped over $1 billion extra tax. So you don't have to increase tax rates, you just change policies. 48% of businesses going bankrupt are directly or indirectly because of government. And the average business spends 1 day per week on just purely doing stuff they wouldn't otherwise have to do because of government laws. Let's have a quick look at these figures by tax saving. So this is why I bought all my US properties through a super fund. Have a look at this. If you're paying the maximum tax rate and you invest 100 grand at 20% per annum for 10 years, you'll end up with $441,000. So in 2023, you have $441,000. Okay, probably not worth a lot by that time of inflation and all that. If you use a company, you got $672,000. So you already, just by changing the structure, you're an extra $230,000 in front. Who thinks that's worth having? If you use a super fund, you got $990,000, an extra $318,000 again. If you got 0% tax, because let's say if you've waited till you age 60 and then sell it, you got $1.378 million. Who thinks that's really good? Now I'll show you 20 years. Look at the difference. Between 46.5% and 15% using a super fund, $2.1 million extra in 20 years' time. Who thinks that with inflation that's going to be pretty darn useful? Put your hand up. 2.1 million. And if you get 0% tax by, 5.2 million. Now who thinks that tax planning is going to make you a fair degree of money? Believe me, this is my favourite thing I do with my own affairs. I always say building wealth is actually really easy. You've just got to make more money, you've got to increase income and cut expenses. It's actually really easy when you think of it. Make more money. So if you're having money, who's got a money problem right now? Who'd like to be earning more money? Very simple. Find a way to get more cash flow and find a way to cut your expenses. Every wealthy person who I've met, and I've worked with many super wealthy people over the years, it's one thing they got in common. They don't just increase income, they're very, very rigid and disciplined on cutting expenses. On average in my business, every probably month or two, we cut another expense. Always trimming our expenses, always finding ways to do things better. And tax is one of the biggest ones in the business where if you can manage that. So how can you keep your tax down? One is splitting your income. So using family trusts. Like I said, I've only got a short time, so I can't give you, but family, the biggest way I do it myself is 2 ways, okay? 2 ways if you're writing notes. One is by contracting or whatever else and using a structure or whatever else, so splitting with a partner. The other one is just using family trusts. I save more money through my family trust than almost anything else. My super fund and my family trust are what I use extensively myself. So companies, you do save tax as well, but it's basically trusts that really do it. So splitting income. The biggest thing of a family trust and why the wealthy use them so heavily is you get to control assets but not actually own them, okay? So control them, not actually own them. So I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say you've got a family trust. I'll just quickly show you this one now. But like I said, I can't show you too much in the time I've got, but let's just say you're a doctor on let's say $150,000 income, okay? So your income is $150,000. Now, let's say we'll reverse it around. So let's say Daisy's on 150 grand income as a doctor, and Donald's a modern day house dad, looks after the kids, okay? So Donald's got, say, only 10 grand income. He just gets a little bit of side income, okay? Now, let's just say that they start doing share trading or they buy some positively geared cash flow property. But using various strategies, they managed to make themselves an additional $100,000 in a family trust. Now, if Daisy earned it in her own name, she would pay tax of around about $45,000. Is that a lot? If Daisy uses a family trust in this example, by splitting income between Huey, Dewey and Louie as her kids, and by using a church or whatever else or various other strategies, Daisy can cut her tax down probably from 45k down to about 20k. Maybe even 15. Who thinks that's pretty good? Just by using that trust, probably knock about $25,000 off the tax 100% legally. Worth doing? So slashing your taxable income. Using a trust. One little tip I've got here, which I'll just go back to, is reducing capital gains tax when you sell, don't use a company. In other words, if you're buying assets to buy and hold or a business, use a family trust. Just one little tip there. But the main point I wanted to get you out of so far tonight is protecting your assets, like I've gone through whether you're single, a couple, using separate structures. The other one is definitely for tax minimisation, is using trusts and using structures. The other one is using the right accountants and really doing some good planning and things like that. Believe me, worth its weight in gold. The other one is knowing what expenses you can claim as tax deductions. Now, when you deal, who here is in business, by the way, of some kind? A few people. Who here is not? Who wants to be? Yep. One little tip there is that the fastest way, the rich 200, all of them, without fail, you know what they've got in common? They're all in business. Okay? So the fastest way to build cash flow is be in business. Now, if you want to make a step into business from being an employee, the best, I would suggest that, unless you're very brave and can just kind of take a big risk, just become a contractor. Find a way to do that. And I've worked with a lot of people. I did it myself. I started from being an employee in a law firm, became a contractor, and bit by bit. So I've helped a lot of my clients actually do that, step out, take the risk and go into business. But, well, you can claim a lot of things like wealth education expenses. So when you go to courses, when you're in business or know what you're doing, one of the things I do when I travel and things like that is I get to claim my expenses on travel, things like that. For example, one little trick is that if you go on a holiday and your main purpose is for work or business, if you go on a trip like overseas, like last year I went to US, and the main reason I went was to speak at a seminar, okay? So provided that the main reason that you go, you can claim 100% of the airplane ticket as a tax deduction, even if you go on a holiday as well. That's a court ruling. Who likes that? So I went to America, I went to the seminar, I did that. Afterwards I went to Memphis, I saw the Civil Rights Museum, went to Texas, did the Riverwalk of San Antonio, went to Vegas, had a blast, had a great time. Air flight was fully tax deductible. Who likes this? Other things too, like car expenses. Did you know you can claim up to 5,000 kilometres, provided there's a reasonable basis, at around about 70 to 80 cents per kilometre, without keeping any receipts? Who didn't know that one? Yep, on the car expenses. Who did know that one? A few. So little things like that with the law, when you know them and get the right advice, you can really, really reduce your tax. And seminar courses as well. I've been able to help a few clients in that one too. Okay, superannuation. Now, like I said, I'm a big fan of super, self-managed funds. Like I can ask again, who here has got money in super and would love to buy property but does not have a self-managed fund? Quite a few. Yep. Again, you've got to be careful about getting a self-managed fund. There's a lot of responsibility and you've got to look into it and that kind of stuff. We help people with all that. But keep in mind, it's a very good possibility to get started in your wealth building strategy. That's one of the ways I got started years and years ago. To set up a self-managed fund gave me quite a bit of extra cash to kickstart myself off. So you can do all kinds of things with a self-managed fund. The thing to keep in mind, you only pay 15% tax each year, so any money that's in super, investing and growing, is only 15% tax. And after 60, you pay 0% tax upon the sale of assets. So holding property, business premises, shares, it's a great way of doing it. So my rule is anything which I don't plan to sell for a long time, I just buy in my super. Very simple. You can trade markets. You'll be learning about things like covered calls, trading, things like that, options trading, writing options, that kind of stuff for income. You can do all that through your super. And the fact is 93% of Australians, I reckon, won't have enough for their retirement or won't have enough. So really good time to start doing that and putting some cash flow. Who wants to get more free time anyway? Who would love it? Absolutely, what I love that. I'm always trying to find more ways. I actually I'm an accountant and lawyer, but I hate paperwork. Who else hates paperwork? Yeah, a lot of people. Who loves it? Oh, no hands went up. I thought there'd be one or two. Thought there'd be a few nutters in here. But paperwork is, I've developed this new strategy for what I've done. I learnt this from a friend of mine. I use my mobile. I got a Samsung Galaxy. Anyone got that? I mean, much better than those silly iPhones. I mean, Derek loves iPhones. He came with me. Who's an iPhone fan? Who's a Samsung fan? The Samsungs, I think, are in front. Who's a BlackBerry fan? No one anymore. I used to be. Problem is, you've got no apps like Skype and all that. But anyway, that's beside the point. But a Samsung Galaxy and iPhone do the same thing. I was joking, by the way. They're both good phones. You can actually get an app on your phone where, let's say that I go into a seminar like this and I get a receipt. I photograph it with my app. That then goes straight in there. I store it. It comes up. It crops it automatically. Has my receipt all in format the tax office approves. I then save it in the name I want to. And then I push a button on my phone. It goes straight into a Dropbox folder, which I've got. Who's heard of Dropbox? Yep, goes straight in the Dropbox, like Google Docs, which is just a storage facility. That then in turn goes straight automatically, uploads onto my system, and then my bookkeeper gets it and then just uploads it and does it all for me. Every trust, every document, every thing I've got, like investments I own, life insurance policies now, I've scanned it and I store it. So literally, recently I went for a loan, we're buying a car. Now who knows that when they ask you for all those documents, it takes you 3, 4, 5 hours to get it all together. Took me 25 minutes to get my documents together. Because it was all online, all scanned, automatic, so I just did a search, bang, 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 just did an email, attach, straight across, covering note, and that was what took me most of the time, was the covering note. 25 minutes. And had the whole thing there, application ready to go. Who thinks it's a great time-saving strategy? So this is the kind of stuff you can do. So you can also buy property, you can borrow to buy property. Love it, self-managed super. So in summary, you've got these great little things, and of course in 45 minutes I'm limited what I can show you, but you've got trusts, you've got companies, you've got these super funds, you've got really great ways to get some cash into your pocket and start saving some tax. I know there's been a few people asking about Bitcoin as well. Anyone into that? Using Bitcoin? Yeah, Bitcoin's just new online currency, but yeah, people have asked me, can I do it in a super fund? The answer is yes. You can hold gold, you can hold Bitcoin, you can buy artwork, you can buy anything just about. The only things you can't do with a super fund is you can't take money out for personal use without getting in a whole lot of trouble, and you can't borrow except to buy property in certain situations. So that's about the only catches. Otherwise, you're pretty. And in certain derivatives trading, you've just got to be in futures. You can't do. So you got to just check it out. Okay, just my last point, which I get before I close, is just one of the things which I'm really big about with tax is that one of the things I always tell people is getting yourself a purpose or mission or something like that and know why you're doing things. I mean, one of the things with me, I'm not just an accountant and lawyer. I do this because I love it and because I'm passionate about saving people tax and helping people build wealth. So whatever you're doing, you'll build wealth a whole lot faster, or you'll start making more cash flow a whole lot faster if that's what you want, if you're doing something you love doing. Who knows what I mean? So really getting some kind of greater purpose beyond themselves. One of the things as well, and this is one of the reasons I say the great thing about getting educated on your tax and how to structure yourself, you start to learn and get more comfortable. And I find a lot of people got a bit of a fear around authority and dealing with things. But the fact is we have more and more licensing and regulation coming in. We've got rights being taken away all the time. I see some insane stuff all the time. One of my favourite little hobbies I do on the side, actually, because of my belief on doing things, I regularly do pro bono, which means free work on certain things. Like, for example, I've helped a lot of people whose kids are being bullied in school and how to stop it happening. I've got a system that stops it within 24 hours. I think that's pretty cool. It pretty much can stop any bullying situation in 24 hours. I've used it a few times in my school where my son's come to me because one of his friends is being bullied and nothing seems to happen, and I do it within 24 hours just by going and seeing the principals and always being very nice, saying, look, I know you're doing your job well and you want to kind of keep the school in order, and I always use the magic words, and I know you're aware of your legal duty of care for your kids in your school. And there's a bullying situation happening that I'm sure you'd want to be aware about because it could affect your legal duty of care. Who thinks that's good? Believe me, do you think I've got their attention? I have their attention. And it happened only about 6 months ago where one of my son's friends was being beaten up by 4 kids at school every day. And Mum was so upset by it, and the teachers were saying, oh, we can't see anything happening. And so I just went and used the exact words of the principal. Within 5 minutes, the principal had walked straight into the class and named the 4 kids, "I want you outside right now." Gave them the righto, had the kids almost in tears, like, grilling them about what happened. Apparently, from that day forward, stopped the bullying straight away. So the more you start to build cash and get things behind you, you can start to do things like that and everything like that. One of my favourite quotes, "Evil triumphs when good or women remain silent." It's one of the reasons I went to the Civil Rights Museum. And who's ever been to Memphis? Anyone? No one ever seems to. I seem to be the only one in the world who's been. It's a really interesting place, Memphis, because it's on the Bible Belt. It's in Tennessee, and Tennessee is one of the strongest Christian fundamentalist Bible Belt. And it's like going back in time into a whole new world. Like when I arrived in Memphis, you hear like these gospel music going in every taxi you go, and at the airport, and then they're all talking, spiritual language. And then I went to the blues bars in town, and it was like going back in the 70s, and they had like jukeboxes, and they had the most incredible black gospel singers who were just singing like unbelievably great, almost at my level, not quite, but not really. I can't sing as well as a black gospel singer. But it's a great place, Go there one time if you just want to get in the plane and go somewhere. Anyone ever done that? Just flown somewhere for the sake of it? It's fun, isn't it? My uncle years ago, he just basically one morning, he woke up his kids and said, "Guys, got to get ready. We're going out." And they go, "Where to?" We go, "China." They thought he was joking. He's completely serious. The night before, he was watching a documentary in China, and his wife said, "We should go there one time." He goes, "Yeah, good idea." And he just went and booked a ticket. But he said to her, "Okay, we're going to China tomorrow." She goes, "We've got meetings. I'll just get the secretary to cancel them." Because you only live once, let's go to China. Who likes that? It's pretty fun, isn't it? I've done some pretty crazy things. Just one of the things here, the GST legislation actually gives the tax office power to actually lie. So I thought I'd show you this one. This is a classic. You've got really scary tax law. This is the kind of nonsense that they're actually passing in law. The tax office can treat a particular event that actually happened as not having happened. So what's your name? Sean. Hi, Sean. I'm Warren. Nice to meet you. But that's like the tax office saying, the boat that Warren bought, we're actually going to pretend that Sean he didn't actually ever bought it in the first place. So that's that one. So the next one is what I'm going to use Sean for here. Treat a particular event not actually happened as having happened, and if appropriate, treat the event as having happened at a particular time and having involved particular action by a particular entity. So that's like the tax office saying, look, Warren never actually bought a boat, but we're going to pretend that he actually did, but he didn't actually buy it. Sean actually bought it instead, and he bought it last week. And we'll tax him on the fact that he bought a boat last week, has to pay GST. That's actually law. Now, obviously, someone was actually shooting something up when they wrote that, but that's actually what's... You know what I mean. I actually worked for the tax office for 10 years, and I actually remember there was this competition at one stage, sections 51A, J to something else of the Tax Act. There was a competition for the first person who could actually read it and understand the provisions. No one could actually understand them. They were that badly written. Treat a particular event actually happened as having happened at a time different from the time it actually happened, or having involved particular action by a particular entity, whether or not the event actually involved the action by the entity. Makes perfect sense, absolutely. And they think we're insane, God. Okay. So regulations going up. So pretty much my point here is laws are going more and more nuts. And rights are not getting better, they're going what? Worse, much worse. Occasionally there's a moment of sensibility, like I've just heard the Queensland government are going to trial bringing laws in to remove requirement for bike helmets so people, provided they fall within certain ranges, don't have to wear bike helmets anymore. Now, I used to ride bikes all the time until I was 17, and then some person who decided they wanted to be my grandma decided to pass a law to look after me and say I wasn't allowed to ride a bike without a helmet. And I stopped riding bikes ever since. And because I hated wearing the things because they, you know, when you're riding in hot summer and it makes your hair all messy. Well, not quite, but you know what I mean. I just hate wearing helmets. But the point is, I mean, really, same with tax law, same with everything. Just a little point, one of my favourite ones, I used to teach this in seminars. Good one to always keep in mind about governments when governments get a bit too big for their boots. Most of our laws are actually passed by people fighting for freedoms and fighting for rights, and we often forget that. So often we think with government, we've got to remember who actually creates governments. We do. We as a society create governments. So I always keep this in mind. So when I'm dealing with government, although I respect them, remember they're a public servant. That means that who's their boss? We are. So you're their boss. So when you deal with them, just keep that in mind, that you are actually their boss. So and it's amazing when you move into that different mentality of thinking. When I changed my way of thinking, it took me a long time to master that one, but it changes the whole way you deal with things. And who thinks that Andrew Forrest and, say, Gina Reinhardt and the Packers are scared of government? Who thinks they're not really? Who thinks they're just here as part of the game of building wealth? That's the kind of way you want to think.